Commander Jacob Lee stood on the observation deck of the human exploration vessel, Aurora, watching the swirling nebula outside with mixed feelings of wonder and confusion. 3 weeks had passed since they made first contact with the Valdrine, and 3 weeks since humanity learned a disturbing truth. Earth was marked as a quarantine zone in the Valdrine's ancient star charts. Lieutenant Grace Murphy walked up from behind, carrying the weight of exhaustion in her voice. "They are refusing to meet with us again," she announced to Jacob. Her auburn hair caught the light from the nebula as she moved closer. "Did they give a reason this time?" Jacob asked, turning to face her. Grace shook her head slowly. "Same as before. Earth is forbidden territory. They will not even discuss why. It is like talking to a wall, except this wall has been standing for millions of years and has seen things we cannot imagine." The Aurora had been on a routine deep space exploration mission when they encountered the Valdrine mothership. The vessel was so enormous it had its own gravitational field. The structure was built from materials that predated most known star systems and was covered in crystalline formations that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. Captain Helen Pierce entered the observation deck with a grim expression on her face. "We just received a formal communication from the Valdrine Council of Elders," she said in a serious tone. "They are ordering us to cease all attempts at contact and return to our home system immediately." "They cannot be serious," Jacob responded with disbelief. "We have traveled 8 months to reach this sector. We have a right to know why our planet is being treated like a cosmic plague zone." Helen handed him a datapad showing the message. "Read it yourself. They have been remarkably clear about one thing. We need to leave, and we need to leave now." The message was brief but chilling in its meaning. "To the representatives of the human species, your presence in this sector violates ancient protocols established long before your kind discovered fire. Earth is designated as Exclusion Zone Theta 9. This classification exists for the protection of all galactic civilizations. Return to your world immediately. Further contact will not be tolerated. This is not a negotiation. This is a warning born of wisdom your species cannot yet comprehend. Exclusion Zone Theta 9. Grace read over his shoulder. "That sounds ominous and frightening. It gets worse," Helen said, crossing her arms. "Our linguistics team cross-referenced the Valdrine language database they provided. Theta 9 does not just mean forbidden. In their oldest dialects, it translates roughly to the place where ancient things still dwell." A chill ran down Jacob's spine, making him uncomfortable. "What does that mean exactly? What ancient things are they talking about?" "That is what we need to find out," Helen replied with determination in her eyes. "I am not turning this ship around until we have answers. Our orders from Earth Command are to establish diplomatic relations and gather intelligence. A species that has been around for 17 million years does not just randomly mark a planet as forbidden. There is something they know and something they are afraid of." "Afraid?" Grace raised an eyebrow in surprise. "The Valdrine are afraid of something. They are the oldest surviving species in known space. What could possibly frighten beings like them?" Helen walked to the viewport, staring out at the distant stars. "That is exactly what worries me the most. According to our xenoanthropology team, it is not just Earth they avoid. There is a bubble around our solar system roughly 2 light-years in diameter. They will not enter it under any circumstances. Ships are rerouted and trade routes are adjusted. It is like there is an invisible barrier around our home, and the only thing maintaining it is pure fear." Jacob pulled up the stellar cartography on his personal display. The data was undeniable and clear. Every Valdrine trade route and every patrol pattern, and every documented journey over the past 1,000 years, all avoided Earth's neighborhood with remarkable consistency. "Permission to speak freely, Captain?" Jacob asked, looking up from his display. "Always," Helen responded without hesitation. "What if they are right about this? What if there is something on Earth or near Earth that we do not know about? Something dangerous that could harm us?" Helen considered this possibility for a long moment. "Then we have an even greater responsibility to find out what it is. Ignorance is not going to protect humanity if there is a genuine threat in our own backyard." The ship's communication system chimed, interrupting their conversation. It was Lieutenant Commander Peter Walsh from the Science Division. "Captain, you need to see this immediately. We have been analyzing the deep space telemetry data from the Valdrine ship's passive systems. We were not looking for it initially, but our artificial intelligence found a pattern." "What kind of pattern are we talking about?" Helen asked with growing concern. The Valdrine are not just avoiding Earth, they are monitoring it constantly. They have sensor drones positioned at the edge of the exclusion zone just watching. Whatever they are afraid of, they want to know if it ever leaves that zone. The implications hung in the air like a dense fog around them. The Valdrine had survived cosmic catastrophes and witnessed the rise and fall of entire civilizations. Yet they were watching Earth with the wariness of someone keeping an eye on a sleeping predator. "Get me everything we have on those sensor drones," Helen ordered in a commanding voice. "Specifications and capabilities and what exactly they are looking for. And somebody get me a secure channel to Earth Command. They need to know about this situation right away." As the crew moved to execute her orders, Jacob could not shake a growing sense of unease. Humanity had always assumed they were alone in the universe, or at least unremarkable in the cosmic scheme of things. But what if they were wrong about everything? What if there was something about Earth or something about humanity's home that made it dangerous to species that had been navigating the stars since before Earth's continents had taken their current shape? Grace stood beside him at the viewport looking out at the stars. "What do you think is down there, Jake? On Earth, I mean. What could possibly scare a species that is 17 million years old?" Jacob shook his head slowly, unable to provide an answer. "I do not know, Grace, but whatever it is, we have been living right next to it our entire existence. And we never knew it was there." The Aurora hung in space like a tiny speck of human engineering facing mysteries that predated human civilization by countless millennia. The stars offered no answers to their questions, only more mysteries. And somewhere in the darkness, the Valdrine watched and waited, maintaining their ancient vigil over a world they dared not approach. The galaxy's oldest species avoided Earth for a reason. Humanity was about to discover why. Dr. Lisa Chen had been having strange dreams for 3 weeks. They started the same night the Aurora made contact with the Valdrine, though she had not connected the two events until much later. In the dreams, she stood in darkness that was absolute and complete. And in that darkness, something breathed. She sat in her quarters aboard the Aurora, reviewing her research on Valdrine physiology for what felt like the 100th time. As the ship's chief xenobiologist, she had been granted limited access to biological data the Valdrine had provided during standard diplomatic exchanges. But the more she studied them, the more questions arose in her mind. Valdrine were silicon-based life forms, and their consciousness was distributed across crystalline neural networks that could survive in environments that would instantly kill carbon-based organisms like humans. They reproduced through a form of crystal propagation, sharing memories across generations like data transferred between computers. They were in every sense nearly immortal beings, yet they feared something on Earth. A knock at her door interrupted her deep thoughts. "Come in," she called out. It was Jacob Lee carrying 2 cups of synthetic coffee. "Thought you could use this," he said with a friendly smile. "You have been locked in here for 6 hours straight, 6 hours." Lisa glanced at her chronometer, surprised by the time. "I did not realize it had been that long." "That is what I figured." Jacob handed her one of the cups and sat across from her. "What are you working on so intensely?" "Trying to understand them," Lisa said, gesturing at her displays. "The Valdrine, their psychology and their fears and their motivations. If we can understand what frightens them, maybe we can understand why they avoid Earth." Jacob sipped his coffee slowly. "Any progress so far? Some interesting findings. The Valdrine do not experience fear the way we do. Their emotion is more like calculated risk assessment. They are not afraid in the emotional sense. They have determined through millions of years of experience that Earth represents an unacceptable danger. That is different from fear. That is wisdom. Wisdom based on what, though? That is what we need to know," Jacob said, leaning forward. Lisa pulled up a new file on her display showing various data charts. "I have been cross-referencing the Valdrine historical databases with Earth's geological records. There is something interesting about 65 million years ago, right around the time the dinosaurs went extinct." "What did you find?" Jacob asked with growing interest. "There is a gap in the Valdrine records. 30,000 years where they have no documented activity in this entire sector of the galaxy. No trade and no exploration and no communication relays. Nothing at all. It is like they abandoned this entire region of space and did not come back for 30 millennia. Jacob leaned forward, even more interested now. "That is around the time of the Chicxulub impact. The asteroid that killed the dinosaurs on Earth." "Exactly right. But here is the strange part. The Valdrine records do not mention an asteroid. They mention something they call the Awakening, The awakening. Jacob repeated the phrase slowly. What does that mean? Lisa's fingers moved across her display, pulling up translated Valdrine texts. Their records are fragmentary and heavily encrypted, but what I have been able to decode suggests that something on Earth woke up 65 million years ago. Something that had been dormant for even longer. The Valdrine response was immediate evacuation of the entire sector. Jacob set down his coffee cup, his expression growing serious. What could have been dormant on Earth back then? The planet was dominated by dinosaurs. No intelligent life and no civilization that we know of. Lisa corrected him. But what if there was something else? Something older than the dinosaurs and older than life as we understand it. The Valdrine text referred to it as the sleepers. Before Jacob could respond, the ship's alarm system activated throughout the vessel. Captain Pierce's voice came over the intercom, sounding urgent. All senior staff to the bridge immediately. We have a situation. They arrived on the bridge to find controlled chaos. Crew members worked their stations with urgent efficiency while holographic displays showed multiple data streams, converging into a disturbing picture. Report, Captain. Pierce commanded as Lisa and Jacob took their positions. Lieutenant. Commander Peter Walsh looked up from his science station, his face pale with concern. Captain, we have detected an anomaly. 3 hours ago, one of the Valdrine sensor drones at the edge of the exclusion zone around Earth started broadcasting an emergency signal. The message is repeating in all known languages, including English. What does it say exactly? Captain Pierce asked. Peter swallowed hard before answering. It says, attention all vessels. Exclusion zone Theta 9 has been breached from within. Unknown signatures detected moving outward from the third planet. This is not a drill. The sleepers are moving. All ships are to evacuate this sector immediately. May the ancient lights guide you to safety. The bridge fell completely silent. Lisa felt her blood run cold. The sleepers. The same term from the ancient Valdrine texts, from within. Captain Pierce asked with alarm. Something is leaving Earth right now. That is what it appears to be. Peter confirmed, looking at his displays. The Valdrine long-range sensors are detecting multiple signatures emerging from Earth's oceans. Deep ocean. We are talking depths below 10,000 meters in some cases. Grace Murphy pulled up a tactical display on the main screen. How many signatures are we detecting? 17 confirmed and possibly more. They are huge, Captain. Each one is registering as roughly the size of a small city. And they are moving. Slowly but deliberately. Current trajectory suggests they are heading toward the outer solar system. Lisa moved to the science station, her fingers flying across the controls. Can we get any visual data or any electromagnetic signatures? Negative on visual, Peter responded. They are still too deep in Earth's gravity well and surrounded by oceanic interference. But the energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases. They are old, Captain. The quantum resonance patterns suggest these things have been dormant for millions of years. Jacob pulled up historical data on his display. This matches perfectly. 65 million years ago, the Valdrine detected something similar. They called it the awakening. These things have woken up before. Captain Pierce stood at the center of the bridge, her mind clearly racing through possibilities. Have we received any communication from Earth? Does our home planet know what is happening? Communications are still limited by distance, Peter said, checking his station. But we have received preliminary reports from Earth's deep ocean monitoring stations. They are detecting massive seismic activity in the Mariana Trench and the Puerto Rico Trench and several other deep ocean zones. Whatever these things are, they were buried deep, Captain, Grace interjected. We are receiving another transmission. This one is from the Valdrine Council of Elders. It is marked urgent and directed specifically at our ship. Put it through, Captain Pierce ordered. The main view screen shifted to show a Valdrine elder. Its crystalline form refracted light in patterns that suggested great age and wisdom. When it spoke, its voice resonated with harmonics that seemed to bypass the ears and speak directly to the mind. Human vessel Aurora. You were warned. You were told to leave this sector. Now it may be too late. The sleepers have awakened and your species has disturbed something that should have remained buried until the heat death of the universe. What are they? Captain Pierce demanded. What are the sleepers? The Valdrine Elder's form pulsed with what might have been sadness. They are what came before us, before the galaxy as you know it. They are the remnants of the previous universe and entities that survived the last big crunch and the subsequent Big Bang. They slumbered in the deep places of your world waiting. And now for reasons we do not understand, they have chosen to wake. Lisa's mind reeled at the implications. Entities from before the universe itself. It seemed impossible. Why Earth, Jacob asked. Of all the planets in the galaxy, why did they choose Earth? They did not choose Earth, the Valdrine replied. Earth formed around them. Your world is built upon their resting place. Every ocean and every continent and every living thing on your planet exists because they were there, first shaping the very foundations of your world. The Aurora streaked through, space at maximum velocity with its engines pushing beyond recommended limits as it raced toward Earth. Captain Pierce had ordered constant monitoring of all deep space channels, and what they were hearing filled the crew with a mixture of dread and fascination. The Valdrine were not the only ones avoiding Earth anymore. Within 48 hours of the Sleeper's emergence, a dozen other spacefaring species had altered their trade routes and military patrols and exploration vectors to give humanity's home system a wider berth than ever before. The exclusion zone had effectively tripled in size. Commander Jacob Lee stood in the ship's observation lounge watching the stars stream past in relativistic distortion. He had barely slept since learning about the Sleepers. Every time he closed his eyes, he thought about Earth and about the billions of humans going about their daily lives completely unaware that something incomprehensibly ancient was moving beneath their oceans. You should eat something, Dr. Lisa Chen said, entering the lounge with a tray of food. The ship's medical officer is threatening to put you on mandatory rest if you do not take care of yourself. Jacob accepted the tray with a grateful nod. How can I rest when we do not know what is happening at home? By trusting that Earth's defenses and scientific community can handle whatever this is, Lisa replied, though her tone suggested she was having trouble following her own advice. Have you made any progress with the data? Jacob asked. Lisa sat beside him, pulling up a holographic display from her personal terminal. Some progress, yes. I have been analyzing the energy signatures we detected from the Sleepers. The quantum resonance patterns are fascinating. They do not match anything in our physics databases because they should not exist according to our understanding of the universe. Explain that to me, Jacob said. The universe is roughly 13.8 billion years old, right? Everything in it is composed of matter and energy that came into existence with the Big Bang, but these signatures suggest matter that predates the Big Bang. Matter from the previous universe that somehow survived the transition. Jacob frowned at the explanation. That should be impossible. The Big Crunch would have compressed everything down to a singularity. Nothing could survive that process. That is what I thought too. But what if these entities are not made of matter in the traditional sense? What if they exist in a state that transcends the normal rules of physics? The Valdrine called them remnants of the previous universe. Maybe they are more like information patterns that survived the universal reset. Before Jacob could respond, Lieutenant Grace Murphy's voice came over the intercom. Commander Lee and Dr. Chen, please report to the bridge immediately. We are receiving a transmission from Earth. They rushed to the bridge where Captain Pierce and the senior staff were gathered around the main view screen. The image showed Admiral Richard Cole, who was head of Earth's Space Defense Command. His weathered face was grave with concern. Aurora, this is Earth Command. We have been monitoring the situation in our oceans. The entities you call the Sleepers have been confirmed by multiple deep-sea stations and satellite arrays. We count 19 distinct signatures now, and each one is emerging from the deepest ocean trenches. They are moving slowly toward the surface, but their very presence is causing unprecedented seismic and weather disruptions. What is the status of civilian populations? Captain Pierce asked. We have issued general advisories for coastal regions but avoided causing panic. We are telling people it is unusual seismic activity related to tectonic shifts, but the truth is we do not know what these things are or what they want. Admiral, Lisa spoke up. Have any attempts been made at communication? Admiral Cole nodded. Every method we have. Radio and laser and quantum entanglement arrays and even old-fashioned audio broadcasts into the ocean. Nothing has generated a response. These things are either ignoring us or do not communicate in ways we can recognize. The Admiral's image shifted to show real-time footage from a deep-sea submersible. The crew of the Aurora watched in awe as the camera captured something emerging from the darkness of the Mariana Trench. It was massive and easily 5 kilometers across. The structure was shaped like nothing that had ever existed in human experience. The entity seemed to shift between states of matter being solid one moment and nearly transparent the next. Patterns of light moved across its surface in sequences that suggested purpose and intelligence. It looked ancient beyond measure, like something carved from the fabric of space-time itself. "My God," Grace whispered. "It is beautiful, it is terrifying." Peter Walsh corrected her. "The energy output from that single entity is greater than the total power generation of the entire human civilization. If even one of them decided to be hostile, we would be defenseless." Admiral Cole's face returned to the screen. "We have consulted with every available expert in xenobiology and theoretical physics and ancient history. The prevailing theory is that these entities have been dormant on Earth since before the planet cooled. They were here when Earth was still a ball of molten rock, and they have been here through every stage of the planet's development. Which means," Lisa said slowly as her mind made connections, "they have influenced Earth's development. The formation of the oceans and the emergence of life and the placement of continents. What if they did not just happen to be on Earth? What if they built Earth?" The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. Captain Pierce leaned forward. "Admiral, are you suggesting that Earth itself is artificial? Created by these entities?" "We are suggesting that Earth as we know it may have been shaped by the sleepers," Admiral Cole replied carefully. "Whether intentionally or as a byproduct of their presence, we cannot say, but the geological record shows anomalies that have never been explained. The rate at which life developed on Earth was statistically improbable. The moon's formation through collision theory has always had inconsistencies. What if all of that was influenced by entities existing outside normal physical laws?" Jacob pulled up a star chart on his display. "That would explain why the Valdrine avoid us. They are not afraid of humanity. They are afraid of Earth itself. We are just the inhabitants of a world built by something they encountered and barely survived 17 million years ago. There is more," Admiral Cole continued. "We have detected communication between the sleepers. Not in any electromagnetic spectrum we can easily measure, but our quantum sensors are picking up information exchange. They are coordinating, which suggests they have a purpose. Have you determined what that purpose might be?" Captain Pierce asked. "We have a theory, but you are not going to like it." Dr. Nathan Price, who is head of Earth's Quantum Physics Division, believes the sleepers are preparing to terraform Earth. "Terraform," Grace said with disbelief. "It is already a perfect world for carbon-based life. What would they terraform it into? Something suitable for them." Lisa answered quietly as she worked through the implications. "We have been assuming Earth is the way it is because of natural processes, but what if its current state is temporary? What if the sleepers created an Earth suitable for carbon-based life as a holding pattern while they slept, and now that they are awake, they want their world back?" The view screen shifted again, showing multiple views of the Earth from various satellites. The sleepers could be seen rising through the oceans approaching the surface. Where they moved, the water glowed with strange luminescence and the weather patterns shifted in ways that defied meteorological models. "How long do we have?" Captain Pierce asked quietly. "Unknown," Admiral Cole replied. "But our models suggest that if they continue at their current rate of activity, Earth's climate will become uninhabitable for humans within 6 months. The oceans are warming and atmospheric composition is shifting and tectonic activity is increasing exponentially." "Can we stop them?" Captain Pierce asked. The Admiral's expression made the answer clear before he spoke. "We have run every simulation. Nuclear weapons and kinetic strikes and directed energy weapons. Nothing we have can even scratch one of these entities. They exist partially outside normal space-time. Most of our weapons just pass through them as if they are not there." Jacob felt a cold certainty settle over him. "So humanity has two choices: evacuate Earth or find a way to communicate with the sleepers and convince them to let us stay. There is a third option," Lisa said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. "What if we wake them up fully? They are emerging, but they are not fully conscious yet. What if we can reach them during that transition and establish communication before they are fully active?" The aurora descended through Earth's atmosphere like a falling star with its heat shields glowing orange-red from friction. Inside, the crew worked with practiced efficiency. Each member focused on their role in what would either be humanity's greatest achievement or its final mistake. Dr. Lisa Chen sat at the science station monitoring the quantum communication array she had spent the last 18 hours modifying. The device now operated on principles that pushed the boundaries of known physics, generating signals that existed simultaneously in multiple dimensional states. If her theories were correct, these signals might reach the sleepers in their transitional state of consciousness. Approaching target coordinates. Lieutenant Grace Murphy announced from the helm. Distance to sleeper designation. Alpha 1 is 300 kilometers and closing. Through the view screen, they could see it rising from the Pacific Ocean. Sleeper Alpha 1 dwarfed anything humanity had ever constructed. 5 kilometers across and impossibly ancient, it moved through the water with a grace that belied its tremendous mass. The ocean around it glowed with bioluminescent patterns that seemed to shift through colors that should not exist, making human eyes water trying to process them. Atmospheric disruption increasing, Peter Walsh reported. The entity is generating localized weather systems. We are seeing hurricane-force winds within a kilometer of its position, but they are organized and controlled. It is like the storm is part of its structure. Can we get closer? Captain Helen Pierce asked, not safely. Grace replied. The electromagnetic interference alone could fry our systems. Whatever this thing is, it is putting out more energy than a small sun. Lisa leaned forward, studying her displays. The interference is not random. Look at the patterns. It is cycling through different frequencies, almost like it is searching for something, or trying to establish a connection. Could it be trying to communicate? Jacob Lee asked. Maybe. Or maybe it is just a side effect of it waking up. We need to make the first move. Lisa's fingers moved across her controls. Initiating quantum pulse sequence. If this works, we should be able to establish a baseline communication protocol. The Aurora's modified arrays hummed with power, sending out waves of carefully structured information that existed in multiple quantum states simultaneously. The crew watched their displays, hoping for any sign of response. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then every screen on the ship went dark. What just happened? Captain Pierce demanded. All systems are offline, Peter said, working frantically at his station. No, wait, they are not offline. They are being overridden. Something is accessing our computers. The main view screen flickered to life, but instead of showing the ocean outside, it displayed patterns, complex swirling geometries that hurt to look at directly. And within those patterns, something that might have been words formed in every human language simultaneously. We hear you, young ones. The bridge crew froze. Lisa felt her heart racing as she realized what had happened. The sleepers were not just receiving their signal. They were responding through it using the ship's own systems as an interface. This is Captain Helen Pierce of the human vessel Aurora. The captain said with steady voice despite the circumstances. We are attempting to establish peaceful communication with your species. The patterns on the screen shifted, reorganizing into new configurations. Species. An inadequate term. We are not a species. We are the remnant, the bridge, the memory of what was before what is. Jacob spoke up. You are from the previous universe. You survived its end and the birth of this one. Survived. Another inadequate term. We did not survive the transition. We are the transition. When the old universe collapsed, we were the pattern that encoded its information into the new. We are what allows continuity between cosmic cycles. Lisa's mind raced with the implications. You are saying you are not just entities from before. You are the mechanism by which information survives the death and rebirth of reality itself. Correct, young scholar. Every universe ends. Every universe begins. Without us, each universe would start from nothing, with no structure and no physical laws and no possibility for complexity to emerge. We are the seeds that allow new universes to bloom. Captain Pierce stood approaching the view screen. Then why are you here? Why Earth specifically? Earth was not special. It was convenient. When we entered this universe at its moment of birth, we needed a place to rest. Your star system was forming. Your planet was cooling. We settled into its deep places and slept while the new reality stabilized around us. But you shaped Earth's development, Lisa said. Life emerged here faster than it should have. The planet developed in ways that seem almost intentional. Your presence is not coincidental. Life forms where we sleep. It is inevitable. We carry the patterns of the previous universe, including the patterns that allow complexity and consciousness to emerge. These patterns leak into the substrate of reality around us. Your world was seeded with potential simply because we were here. Grace Murphy shook her head in wonder. So humanity exists because you chose Earth as a resting place. We are some kind of byproduct of your presence. All life is a byproduct. All consciousness is an echo. but you are not less real for it. The previous universe had its own life and its own consciousness and its own civilizations. They too were byproducts of earlier sleepers. It is the way of existence. Each cycle builds upon the last. Why are you waking now? Jacob asked. What changed? The patterns on the screen pulsed with something that might have been amusement or sadness. Your species has reached critical mass. Your consciousness has grown dense enough to disturb our slumber. Your questions about the nature of reality, and your quantum experiments and your attempts to understand the fundamental structure of the universe. These things resonate with us. We cannot sleep through the noise of a civilization asking the right questions. Are you going to terraform Earth? Captain Pierce asked directly. Our scientists believe your presence is already changing the planet's climate and composition. We must prepare this world for the transition. The current universe is young, but it ages. In another trillion years it too will collapse. When that happens, we must be ready to perform our function again to carry the patterns forward into the next cycle. This world will become a vessel for that purpose. Lisa felt her blood run cold. A trillion years. That is incomprehensibly far in the future. You are going to make Earth uninhabitable for humans now to prepare for something that will not happen for eons. Time is not linear for us. We exist across all moments simultaneously. The end of this universe is as present to us as its beginning. We must prepare, but humanity will die, Jacob said with both desperation and anger in his voice. Billions of people, countless other species. You are going to destroy an entire world's ecosystem for a process that will not be relevant for longer than the current universe has existed. The patterns shifted, taking on a new configuration. Your species will not die. You have already begun to spread to other worlds. You have ships that travel between stars. You have the capability to survive without this planet. The transition will take many of your generations. You have time to evacuate. But Earth is our home, Captain Pierce said quietly. It is where we came from and where our entire history exists. You are asking us to abandon the cradle of our civilization. All civilizations must leave their cradles. It is the nature of growth. You have already taken the first steps into the larger universe. This is merely the impetus to complete that journey. What if we refuse? Grace asked. What if humanity decides to fight to keep Earth? You cannot fight us. We are not your enemy. We are a natural process like entropy or time itself. You would have as much success fighting against gravity or the rotation of your planet. We simply are, and we will do what we must do. Lisa stood with her scientific mind working through possibilities. What if we could help you? What if humanity could assist in your preparation instead of being displaced by it? We are tool users and builders and problem solvers. Maybe we could find a way for both our species and both our purposes to coexist. The patterns on the screen froze, then began moving in new, more complex arrangements. You would help us. Knowing what we are, knowing what we must do, we would try, Lisa said. Because the alternative is giving up our home without even attempting to find another way. Humanity has always been good at finding solutions to impossible problems. Let us try to find one now. 1,000 days. Approximately 2 years and 9 months. It sounded like a long time, but for the task facing humanity, it might as well have been a heartbeat. Dr. Lisa Chen stood in the newly constructed Global Research Facility in Geneva, surrounded by the greatest minds humanity had ever assembled. Physicists and biologists and engineers and philosophers and computer scientists and representatives from every major nation on Earth worked side by side, united by a single purpose: find a way to coexist with the sleepers. The fundamental problem, said Dr. Nathan Price, scratching equations on a holographic display, is energy in space. The sleepers need to convert Earth into a vessel capable of surviving the heat death of this universe and the birth of the next. That requires restructuring the planet at a quantum level. We cannot just ask them to use less space or less energy. It is like asking a human to breathe less air. Then we need to think bigger, Lisa countered. We have been approaching this as if Earth is the only option. But what if we could provide the sleepers with an alternative location that serves their purpose better than Earth? Like what? Asked Dr. Amy Rogers, who was head of the Stellar Engineering Division. You are talking about creating or finding a planet that meets their specific requirements. That is beyond our current capabilities by several orders of magnitude. Lisa pulled up a new display showing her research from the past several months. What if we do not need to create a new planet? What if we help them modify a different one? The sleepers have been on Earth for billions of years because it was convenient, not because it is the perfect location. Maybe we can find them something better. Commander Jacob Lee entered the facility fresh from a meeting with the military leadership. I have some interesting data from our deep space probes. We have been surveying nearby star systems for potential alternatives, and there is a candidate. A planet in the Kepler 452 system, roughly 1,000 light-years. From here, he pulled up holographic images of a massive, terrestrial world almost twice the size of Earth. Kepler 452b, it, is in the habitable zone of its star, but unlike Earth, it has no life. The planet has the right composition and size, and it is geologically active. More importantly, it is old. 6 billion years compared to Earth's 4.5 billion. That extra time means it has had more geological processing, which according to the sleeper's requirements makes it a better substrate for their transformation process. 1,000 light-years, Nathan said skeptically. Even if we could convince the sleepers that it is a better location, how would we get them there? They exist partially outside normal space-time, but they still have physical presence. Moving 19 of them across that distance would take millions of years at sublight speeds. Lisa smiled. Not if we use the sleeper's own nature with them. They are not bound by normal physics. They exist across multiple dimensional states. What if we could help them leverage that property to make the transition instantaneously? You are talking about quantum teleportation on a planetary scale, Amy said with her eyes widening. The energy requirements alone would be astronomical. The sleepers have that energy, Lisa pointed out. They are putting out more power than our entire civilization can generate. The question is not whether there is enough energy. It is whether we can build a device that channels and directs it properly. Over the next several weeks, the research facility became a hive of activity. Teams worked around the clock, developing theoretical frameworks that pushed the boundaries of known physics. The sleepers, true to their word, had paused their transformation of Earth, but constant monitoring showed they were still present and still active, maintaining their oceanic positions like ancient pillars, supporting the world. Captain Helen Pierce, who had been appointed as Earth's liaison to the sleepers, stood before the main communication array. The device had been upgraded significantly since the Aurora's first contact, now incorporating technology derived from studying the sleepers' own energy signatures. We are ready to present our proposal, Helen said to the assembled team. Are we confident this will work? Confident? No, Nathan admitted, but it is theoretically sound and it is the best chance we have. The quantum teleportation framework requires the sleepers' active participation, which means they have to agree it is viable. If they do, we might actually pull this off. Helen activated the communication array. The now familiar patterns appeared on the screens, and the voice that was both singular and infinite spoke. We are listening, humans. Your time is nearly expired. Have you found a solution? We have a proposal. Helen began, and then she outlined the plan. They would help the sleepers relocate to Kepler 452b, which was a world better suited to their purposes. Humanity would build quantum amplification devices that would allow the sleepers to essentially fold space, moving their consciousness and mass across the 1,000 light-years in a single moment. In return, Earth would remain unchanged and able to continue supporting human life and the diverse ecosystem that had evolved here. When she finished, there was a long silence. The patterns on the screen shifted through configurations that suggested deep analysis. Your proposal has merit. Kepler 452b is known to us. It is indeed better suited to our purpose than Earth. The question is whether your species can create the technology to facilitate the transition. We can, Lisa said, stepping forward. But we will need your help. The quantum amplifiers require an understanding of physics that we are only beginning to grasp. We will need you to share knowledge about how you manipulate dimensional states. You ask us to teach you, to share secrets of existence that predate your universe. This is unprecedented. So is this entire situation, Jacob pointed out. You said yourself that no species has ever proposed cooperation. Maybe it is time to try something unprecedented. You have knowledge spanning multiple universal cycles. We have adaptability and problem-solving skills honed through millions of years of evolution. Together we might achieve something neither could do alone. The pattern shifted again, faster now, as if the sleepers were communicating among themselves. There is risk in this. Knowledge can be dangerous. Your species is young and impulsive. Some among us argue that teaching you could lead to catastrophe and future cosmic cycles, but some argue otherwise. Helen asked, sensing hesitation. Yes. Some among us see potential. Your species reached out rather than fleeing. You negotiated rather than attacking. You proposed cooperation rather than surrendering. These are rare qualities, perhaps worth cultivating. Then help us, Lisa said, not just for Earth's sake, but because this could be the beginning of something new. A partnership between the architects of reality and the younger species trying to understand. The patterns froze, then exploded into the most complex configuration they had seen yet, filling every screen in the facility, with light and geometry that seemed to exist in more dimensions than human minds could easily process. We agree. We will share the necessary knowledge. We will help you build the quantum amplifiers. And if you succeed, and if you can facilitate our transition to Kepler 452b, it will establish a precedent. Other worlds where we sleep may one day wake to find their own civilizations making similar proposals. You will have created a new possibility in the pattern of existence. The next 6 months were the most intense period of scientific development in human history. The sleepers shared information that revolutionized humanity's understanding of physics and quantum mechanics and the fundamental structure of reality. They explained how consciousness could exist across multiple dimensional states and how energy could be manipulated outside the constraints of entropy, and how the pattern of one universe could be encoded and transferred to another. With this knowledge, human engineers designed and built 19 quantum amplification devices. Each one was positioned at precise locations around the globe. These devices, built with a combination of human technology and alien principles, would create a synchronized pulse that would allow the sleepers to fold space around themselves and emerge in the Kepler 452 system. The day of the transition arrived. Every major city on Earth watched as the 19 devices powered up simultaneously. The energy levels were staggering, equivalent to harnessing the output of a star, but the sleepers controlled and channeled it with impossible precision. In the oceans, the sleepers began to glow. The water around them boiled not from heat, but from the sheer intensity of their transition state. Weather patterns across the globe went haywire for exactly 17 seconds, then stabilized. Satellite feeds showed the impossible. The sleepers simply vanished, not moving through space, but stepping outside it entirely and re-entering reality 1,000 light-years away. Deep space arrays confirmed the transition. Kepler 452b, that distant world humanity had studied for decades, now hosted 19 entities of incomprehensible power and ancient purpose. The sleepers had reached their new home. On Earth, the communication arrays lit up one final time. We have arrived. The transition was successful. You have fulfilled your promise, humanity. In return, we fulfill ours. Earth remains yours. Will we hear from you again? Helen asked. When this universe nears its end, and when the stars grow cold and entropy claims all, we will perform our function. We will encode the patterns of this reality and carry them forward into the next cycle. And because of what your species has done, and because of the precedent you have set, WW,